Now, you've pointed to Anbar province. Anbar province, you have to show us how that is relevant to the reconciliation nationally, because every indicator is those sheikhs decided they were tired of having their daughters raped and their sons beheaded and their towns blown up by al-Qaeda. And they've made an accommodation with us, not with the national reconciliation, in order to avoid that from happening. That makes sense. But in the end, if we've armed them and trained them and there is no national reconciliation, have we simply made more complicated the question of how you resolve the civil war that is ongoing? The only way this is resolved is through that reconciliation.
In terms of Anbar, and not to overemphasize this one particular province, but there are things there that are of broader significance, and I think it is important to understand them. It isn't at all only about us and the Anbaris. That has been a key element of our focus since the beginning of this process, to ensure that what happens in Anbar is linked to the center in ways that are agreeable to both the center and the province. That's why the 21,000 young Anbaris who have come aboard as police officers and who graduated, I guess, yesterday, that's why that's important. The central government has them on the central government's payroll to maintain security in their own province. That's why the readiness of the government, the central government, to provide additional resources to the province to meet its reconstruction needs and to pay compensation is also important. So you're seeing a process working in Anbar that obviously is important in and of itself, but it's also important in the way the two entities, the province and the center, have managed to establish some working linkages. Can that be replicated? No, it can't be done so in a cookie-cutter fashion, but in Diyala, a much more complex situation, Kurd, Shia, Sunni, all intermingled there, we're seeing some of the same phenomenon. A rejection of radicals, a desire to get on with reconstruction and development, an expectation of the central government to support that. So that, to me, is the stage for, at least, a reconciliation process that may actually mean something, and I think we've got to follow it and encourage it.
Senator, I won't repeat what the ambassador just said, but I do want to talk about the South. But first, with respect to this local accommodation that is taking place, really conditional immunity again, we are seeing that even in Baghdad neighborhoods. For example, Ghazaliya, Amariya, and Adamiya all were al-Qaeda strongholds as little as just a few months ago. Adamiya has just begun turning in the last month or so, but already local volunteers are coming forward. And again, the key with that is to make sure that it is tied into the central government through the National Reconciliation Committee that they have set up so that they become legitimate security force members and not the fixed site security elements that we have literally hired them to be in the interim to help maintain the momentum against al-Qaeda in those areas, because those have changed completely, those particular areas.
I know my time is up and I don't want to abuse it, but just say, General, the issue has never been Iraqi versus al-Qaeda, because everybody's always had confidence they didn't want foreign jihadists and they'll kick them out one time or another. The issue is this reconciliation. And the question is, they're really two different fundamentals.
Well, again, the local accommodation that is represented by the Iraqi government, the Shia majority government, Prime Minister Maliki's office, Reconciliation Committee, enabling these individuals to be hired, to be trained and hired in the Ministry of Interior, for example. That's what I'm really getting at, and that is reconciliation. It may not be the reconciliation law. Candidly, that is what gives me, again, some hope.